Hello, this is again Michael Stefan with another screencast about the topic System Architect, and this time we will look a bit at the configuration of a BX400 blade server. What will we do now? So we will configure a BX400 blade chassis. We will take a floor stand configuration with 2 computing blades. We will take a BX920S2, and then we will also configure the VSX960, the virtual tape appliance. And I will show you some things about the licenses, for example, that we also have to configure here. So we will have a configuration which will boot from iSCSI, but first of all we will start with a BX400 base unit. So we will take here from our PRIMERGY folder. Here we see the BX400, the system, the base unit. We just drag and drop it here to the middle, and then we can configure the system. On the left side we once again see all the PRIMERGY servers that can be configured inside the BX400 blade chassis. So a double click on the blade chassis and we see here what we can configure. So as we want to configure a BX400 floor stand, we just take the floor stand kit. We will take 1 DVD-RB drive, and as we will have later on in the configuration, only 4 blade inside the chassis, we will take a configuration with 2 power supply units and 2 fan units, which we will have here, and for redundancy we will take another management blade. So that was the initial configuration for the BX400S1 system unit, and we will now take the computing blades. So first of all we take a BX920S2 dual server blade, put it inside the chassis, and then configure the blade. So what we see here is a specialty of the BX920S2 blade. We will have a closer look at the CPUs, and there we see we have 2 CPUs of one kind. So we have 2 order numbers for each CPU type. So we have a E6545 CPU with one number and the other one with the other number. So where does this come from? It's because in the BX920S2 blade we have different So here we see our CPU overview, and for each CPU type, so we have here for example the E5645 CPU, we have 2 different CPUs here. Why is that? So if you have a closer look at the hints, we see here first CPU, and there we have the second CPUs. So the heat sinks in this blade are different for each CPU. So for the first CPU we had to configure, or we had to generate another number than for the second CPU, which comes with another heat sink on the CPU. This is why we have to configure one CPU here and the second here, and not as for all other rack or tower servers we can choose directly 2 CPUs, for example. Then we will configure the amount of RAM we want to have. We will run it in the performance mode, and we will take 2 times 12 GB of RAM for the blades. So as we will have a configuration which will boot from iSCSI later on, we do not need the hard disks inside the system, and we can directly choose blade installation in the system or in the base unit. So there we have it. So this would be the initial configuration of the blade, but what we need now, as we want to boot from the ESXi, we have to take or go to the software. We are still here, we are in built-in components, and then we go to software and scroll down, and here we see VMware ESXi 4.1 embedded UFM device. So this is just a simple flash device which can be inserted into the Blade server, and then the ESX is pre-installed on this embedded device, and we can directly boot from this device and then get our images or virtual machines from the VSX appliance via iSCSI later on. Okay, now we configured the BX920S2. What we will do now is to copy and paste this thing again, so that we will have two Blade servers inside here. Okay, let's go on to the VSX now. The VSX 960 is a special shared storage or online shared storage solution using NetApp software. So first of all, we have here the SX960, the storage blade disks for up to 10 disks. We just put it inside the chassis, and there also the Systemarchitect can help us with the right placing of this blade disks. So for example, if you would like to put it in the first slot, this is not possible, as we always have to configure a storage control blade beside these storage blades. So our storage control blade would be now another BX920S2, and we put it just beside here. We name it SBC for storage control blade. Okay, here we have it. Now this storage control blade is connected to this storage blade, and we will first of all configure the storage control blades. So once again, one prerequisite of the VSX 960 solution is a 4-core CPU with more than 2 GHz speed, but we will take now the 5645 CPU once again. This has enough power. Actually, adding a second CPU to this configuration or to this solution doesn't make any sense, because we will not have any more throughput if you put another second CPU inside the system. The ONTAP V software is running in a virtual machine on the on a ESX base, and so a second CPU doesn't make any sense. So from the RAM, we need to have at least 8 GB of RAM, and for performance reasons it would be better to take one 12 GB package running in performance modus. Another prerequisite is the local storage, so we need here 2 times at least 146 GB 10K hot plug hard disks. It has to be SAS hard disk, not SATA or SSD. So, and we want to have it installed. Then we can configure the SX960, and to have the most available space that is possible, we will choose the SAS HDDs with 600 GB. We can choose them up to 10 times. That would be the maximum for the moment. So a RAID controller is also necessary, and the BBU should always be used for such a configuration. What is missing now are the different software licenses. So for the VSX it would be an optional software, so we go there to the options and then here to software, and we see the different software licenses available for the ServerView Data ONTAP V software. We just take the basic license for now, and the media kits, so we can then install the whole thing. Okay, we now have more or less all parts beside the further licenses. And what is also not configured up to now is, for example, the switch that we will use in the BX400 chassis. We now have to do a check, and then we already got the message that we are missing the switch. So just one click, and then we can configure the whole thing. Okay, here we can now choose which switch to take. For this configuration, the Ethernet switch or the IBP with 1 gigabit and 36 ports would be enough, so that we can also use all 4 onboard network cards of the Blade service. So we just configure this switch, and then we can do another check. So, there is a message: missing or incomplete slot assignment for rear side switches. What does this mean? In the BX400, as for the BX900 of course too, we have to configure in which slot we want to have the switches, because this is important for the factory where we will then put in the switches. So it's just a configuration. So here we can choose in which connection blade slot, either in 1, 2, 3 or 4, this switch will go. As we want to use this switch for the onboard network cards, we have to place it in connection blade slot 1, and then it is green. So we have to also do the same for the power supplies, as we see it up here. We have the power supply, so we can put in the power supplies where we want to. So for example, we could have power supply into the first slot and into the third slot, and then the fan units in the second and the fourth slot. Or we could also change it and do the second power supply into the second slot, and then the first fan unit in the third slot. Let's see what our checking will come up next. Oh yeah, right. As I said before, we do have a basis license for the Data on Wheel software, but we still have not configured any service for this. It's just as easy as before. We click on configure, and then the Systemarchitect comes up with some licenses or service packs we can use for this special configuration. So here for now on, we take either 1 or 3 year contract. So we take the 1 year contract for now, click on OK, and then we are still missing one conflict, so we will take the switch in the system unit. So what we can now, or what we should do now, as we have seen all the warranty warnings, we can open the service assistant, and then we can either take an individual or recommended warranty extension for this service, for example. As we do want to make it short, again here we will go to standard warranty, and we will confirm the standard warranty for all the parts that are in this configuration. So all the standard warranties are selected, and we will have a look at the conflict checker. So we still need the VMware licenses. We chose for now that we will use a ESXi server. So we do not have a license, we just have the UFM embedded device up to now with no licensing. For this configuration, what will we choose for license? Normally the customer tells you which license to take, or in this case the best license, as we have 3 servers running ESX, 2 with ESXi and 1 with a normal ESX, we can choose for 3 servers the Essentials Plus license, for example. The Essentials Plus license is a vCenter plus 3 licenses for 3 servers with 2 CPUs each maximum. So this would be the best fit for this special configuration right now. So we take the Essentials Plus license, and then we still have to configure the additional service pack, and there we take the service pack for 1 year, Essentials Plus 7 and 24 hours. Okay, here we have it. We still have a warning that we still need one more VMware software license, because the Systemarchitect is not, or it's not possible for the Systemarchitect to know which license we will take for which server. So either you configure a single license for each server, then it will not come up with a warning anymore, but in this case we can really ignore this warning as we chose a sufficient license already. And then there's another hint. So we do not have any hard disk drive in this configuration. So as we want to boot from the ESXi, we do not need any hard disk in these 2 servers here. Okay, so this would be a configuration that is okay for now. We will now have a look at the power calculator. The power calculator gives you the exact amount of power that is needed for this configuration you are configuring right now. So we see here, for example, with the ambient temperature from 10 to 25 degrees and a load of 100%, the system will need 1100 volt ampere and has a current of 4.79 amperes. So you can here change the values. For example, you can change the ambient temperature from 10 to 25, for example, to 30 to 35 degrees, and then you will see how these values will change. Also, if I put the load, for example, to 10%, then we will see that the system will need much less power than before. If I increase it again, you will see how all these values will change. You see here the values for heat emission, the airflow rate, apparent power, active power, for example, and the current. So this tool is really helpful to tell your customer, for example, what he will need for power. Okay, I hope this was a small hint and some tips and tricks again for you on how to configure BX400 configuration. So we have all the licenses needed. We have the full VMware licensing. We have the licenses for the VSX solution. So yeah, that would be all. Would be nice of you if you also have a look on the one of the next screencasts again then. Okay, bye.